Hello, and welcome to another day of Getting to Self-Actualization series. Listen, we are on day 20. Day 20. This has been amazing. If you guys have not been following the journey of getting to self-actualization that I started roughly 3.5 weeks ago. I took some time off for the 4th of July and things like that. But for the most part, though, we've been consistent at this thing every day. Okay. We've been consistent at this thing every day. So let's give it up for consistency, first of all. Okay. But if you've been sticking with me for these last 20 days, I appreciate you. Okay. I really do. And just so you know, if you are watching this series for the first time and this is your day one, or you've only seen one or two other episodes, you do not have to watch this particular series in order, right? Although I mark it day 20, or you may see day whatever on there, there's no order. Everything has its own place in this particular series, right? So you don't have to watch it in chronological order, right? But again, we are in day 20, so we only have a few more days to go, all right, before this series ends, all right? But if this is your first time, hello and welcome. I am Yashika Foster. I am a self-actualization coach and a life strategist. I help you get your whole life together. I help you to determine who it is that you are meant to be in this lifetime, the thing that you say you're going to leave behind. And I do it while sprinkling glitter and rainbows and all the pretty stuff in your life, honey. All right. I'm the auntie or whatever you think you didn't even know you needed in your life. Trust me when I tell you that, because one thing about me, if you watch me, you've heard me say it enough. I went through all of the steps to get my LPC, my license in professional counseling. And when it was time for me to do the internship, first I was like, I didn't really want to do all the internship after I got to about 200 hours. But then I thought about it, because while you are doing that, you have to have insurance, right? You have to have practicing insurance. This is what I learned. When I read, just really, really took the time, because you have to study ethics, you have to study all the things that aligns with the Association of Psychology, right? So I had to read all the books. What I recognized while reading those books is that I lose my license. I lose my license. Because sometimes people don't need to hear what's in the DSM-5. Sometimes people don't need to hear what the book says, that the book answers. Sometimes people just need to hear, like, listen, I don't know how to say this any other way. Okay. Okay. So that's why I became a professional coach with a master's in marriage and family counseling and a bachelor's in psychology, so that I can still get all of those beautiful things, but I can do it the way that it fits the person. And I am not for everybody, and I understand that. So, again, hello and welcome to day 20 of Getting to Self-Actualization. Today, we are talking about you are allowed to outgrow who you had to be to survive. Let me say that one. Let me say that one again. Let me say that one again. You are allowed to outgrow who you had to be to survive. And I need you guys to just sit with that for a minute, especially those of you who are like myself, who come from the hood. And if you don't know, you're watching Hood Parenting. Where am I at? Hood Parenting here on YouTube. For those of you who, like myself, that come from the hood, come from the streets, come from wherever, the ghetto, the whatever, okay, the projects, whatever you want to call it, okay, there were portions of you, even as a young child, where you had to put on in order to survive, okay. And let me tell you how this is, I know, to be true. I was always one of those girls. If you look in my room, everything is pink. This is my office, okay. Every time that I come live, I'm gonna have some type of ornament in my hair, right? On church Sundays, honey, I have a big old flower in my hair, baby. You don't listen, okay? Check out the videos I do on Sunday, or go watch some of the pictures that I do on my Instagram. You can follow me anywhere at Hood Parenting or Yashika Foster, okay? Well, anyway, I always have something in my hair because I love the idea of pretty. I love being pretty. I love all things beautiful. And remind you, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. For me, things like these bows, these pretty flowers, those are beautiful. They make me happy, right? But when you're growing up in the hood, okay, And you already know that certain things is going to get you into fights. All right. And I qualified for all those things where people was like, I don't like her. Right. However, what stopped me from getting in as many fights as I probably would have been into is that I was always a strong girl. I was always a big girl. And I don't mean just big as in fat. I mean, I was strong. I power lift. I shot put through. I did everything. Like I was a literally strong girl. By the time I was 16, I was bench pressing my body weight. So I was a strong girl. So nobody really knew, like they knew that they couldn't come at me. It was like, okay, if we come at her, it has to be like several of us. And trust me, there are stories. Okay. 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 Well, with that being said, um, that also put me on this thing where do I act like a tomboy or do I act like a girl? Because I thought that I couldn't be both because no one that I knew around me was both, right? There were women that I knew in my family, in my extension, who were either this way or that way. And if they were very feminine, most of those women, like my grandmother, my grandmother, my mother's mother, she had her ways, but for the most part, she was all lady. You know, like she took a picture in the 1960s, honey, with a crown on her head, and she was a dark-skinned black woman, honey. You know what? I'm gonna find that picture and make sure I insert it. So she's always been this feminine energy, right? However, she had a husband. And so for her, she could relax in her femininity. And then on top of that, she had six boys before she had four boys, then one girl, then two more boys. And so for the most part, for a long time, she was like the only woman in the house. So of course she had all this masculine energy around her, and she could literally just be in her femininity, right? Because it was always a male there to do something that she needed to be done. Well, for me growing up, I didn't have that. I didn't have that security of that. So I had to be tough, but yet I wanted to be feminine. And so unfortunately for me, I spent a lot of my younger childhood trying to balance that. And by the time I got into young adulthood, that was something that I fought with my spouses, my ex-husbands with, because I knew that outside in the world I had to be a certain way, especially when I joined the military, right? Because y'all already know listen, that's a whole set of problems in itself. That's a whole set of shape shifting and adjusting on your identity and being something that you have to be in order to survive, being in the military. That's something separate from the hood. That's something separate from being from the streets, right? Because now this is corporate America masked with uniformity, right? This is the good old boys club masked with but we can stand together in ranks, okay? Just that simple. And so I still had to show up, but I had to balance it between now I can't be this girl, this woman, because if I show up too much, then guess what I am? I'm an angry black woman, right? I just can't, or I'm a bitch. I couldn't just be a woman with an opinion or a woman that stood by her opinion, because it could be a man that takes the same words and say them. And he was about his business. He was a leader. If he said the same words I said, he was about his business. He was a leader. But if I took those words and said them first, then I'm being, you know what? And that's just the way it is. I mean, is it fair? Absolutely not. That's why we as people have to figure this world out for ourselves, right? So one of the things that we had to do was be a particular way in order to survive. Okay. And now that I'm in my 50s and I'm away from the military, I'm away from certain societal issues. I'm not listen, nowhere is safe. Okay, nowhere is safe. However, where I live now, I don't worry about the same type of background noise that I worried about as a kid growing up in Detroit. Okay, or even the same background noise that I worried about being in the military and being stationed in certain places. So now here I am, a little bit more relaxer. And so for me, I feel that toughness, that face that I had to use, right? I don't have to be that anymore. You know what I mean? And it's shameful that, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. It's a shameful that as a woman, that was something that I had to get to for myself and not ask for permission to be it, right? Because I think that when we ask for permission to be it, people try to take from you. So, you want to be this dainty, this little pretty. you notice that people, it's like certain people will come for you. Certain people will do things like, and I'm not saying because they believe that that person may be a little bit more less stronger than they are, a little bit, excuse me, a little bit less stronger than them, a little bit less stronger than they are. When it comes to a woman like me who's a little bit more, it takes a little bit more person to come towards me because they're like, you know what, she look like she hit back. Okay. And then on top of that, if she hit back, her hits gonna hurt. So it's not no cakewalk. And I'm not talking about I'm talking about in all sense of the matter, whether it's from talking a good game or physical or mental, whatever. Why? Because I've had to endure so many things. And so I guess I wear things on my face. But now I'm at that age where I don't want to do those things anymore. Right? I don't want to do those things anymore. So how do we get to that part of us where we say, okay, I want to listen? I'm at the point now where when I show up, I smile all the time. I remember in the military, that was something you couldn't do because if you smile too much, you wanted something. If you smile too much as a woman, you was trying to get over on somebody, right? If you smile too much as a woman, you was a you know what. I mean, it was just like, so you had to just have this one look on your face. This one look. This one look. Hmm. That's the one look. That one look. you know, every now and then. Like if you're in a smoke section or something, or you all go out in smoke break, you might have a little bit different look. But for the most part, you in a meeting, you at a particular rank, you in a particular position, you got one look, especially if you look like me. Okay. So in this life, as a civilian, as a woman in my 50s, what I decided to do was that I wasn't going to wait on somebody to give it to me. I was not going to wait on someone to support me in it. I wasn't going to wait on someone to come and rescue me or save me. I said I was going to give it to myself and all that means. And so for me, it looks like a lot of different things, right? For example, when it comes to like let me give you an example. I go to the gym every day after I do this particular live. I head to the gym. That's why I'm always in workout gear. Well, when I get to the gym, I don't lift like I used to. And we do like group workouts. I don't lift the kind of weight that I used to lift when I was a power lifter or whatever. I don't even lift a portion of what I could possibly lift. Usually I'll go about 50%, 50 to 75% of my max weight when I lift at the gym. That's it, that's all. Enough where my 50-year-old arms don't get too much and I can still keep a little muscle. That's it, that's all. Why? Because I tell them I'm in my soft girl era. I say it all the time. They tell me, get some more, you can lift more than that. I'll be like, no, I'm in my soft girl era because I don't want to show up like that anymore. I'm doing enough to maintain my life. Because to me, I'm not saying that if you're muscular, you're not soft. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that one correlates to the other. What I'm saying for me, it means shedding myself of all the things that I felt like I needed in order to survive now, to survive and then get to where I'm at now. And so for me, as a child, I shot put, I disc threw, I power lifted, I did all the things when it came to bodybuilding because I thought I was going to be on Gladiators. I thought I was going to be in some bodybuilding magazine. You couldn't tell me otherwise. That was one of the things I was going to do. One of many things I was going to do. Okay. One of many, because I had a lot of ideas. Okay. So for me, I did all the things. Now, so when I think about me being strong from the physical perspective, I'm still strong, but I don't have to correlate me being strong with being physically strong for fear of needing to survive because I'm going to survive regardless, right? As long as there's things that I can pick up, I'm going to survive. As long as there's things that I have, skills that I have, I'm going to survive no matter what. But I correlate it with because in my mind, as a young girl, if you were okay, one of the, in my opinion, one of the most unprotected kids in the hood is a young girl without a parent. I mean, without a father. For me, that's the most unprotected person in any environment is a young girl without a father. She becomes vulnerable. She becomes vulnerable in all aspects, right? So I was that young girl as a young girl, right? My mother had me at 16 and my father, listen, I met him when I was 12, okay? Although they were married, I still didn't meet him till I was 12. So I had to grow up in that environment. So I was very vulnerable to the world. So because I knew I was vulnerable and I caught on quick because things happen as early as 3 years old, I knew that as I went on in life, I had to be stronger. I had to be strong in all aspects of the matter. So when it was time for me to fight, and trust me, I fought. I could protect myself because even when I got in the military, there were people who came for me, like tried to attack me. Men, it happened twice. And both times I had to fight them off. And so I knew then that, listen, I got to maintain that type of strength. Now, as I get older, I get a little wiser. Why? Because no matter what I do, I'm not going to be as strong as I was when I was younger. So that's why I went and got certified. Okay. If you know, you know. Why? Because I have a daughter to protect now. But at the same time, I'm not trying to do the things that I needed to do back then to grow because I've outgrown those things, right? I've outgrown those things. Do I still want to be physically fit? Yes. But I want to be so, I listen, I don't want it to be where I have to balance and act. I just am who I am. And it's just that way. So when you think about it, acknowledge your survival identity, right? Some of us have to be strong, the silent one, the one that does everything. We don't have to do that no more. It's not required now. So how do you get to that point? And then we need to adjust actual emotional shape shifting, right? When we get into a room, we go into a room, we try to make sure we fit in. We don't want to be too much. We want to adjust. Listen, I go to it into a room. I go in every single room, like I said yesterday, knowing that I'm supposed to be there. I don't listen. I already know when I walk in the room shifts. This I know. This I know. And it ain't even about it could be because of the clothes I got on, my confidence. I don't know, but I make sure when I walk into any room, it shifts, right? So that part right there, listen, there's no way I'm going to shrink myself, right? I don't care about fitting in. I don't care about none of that. None of that. My grandmother gave me the name Yashika, and this is a little sad note. My grandmother gave me the name Yashika, my paternal grandmother, because she told me she wanted me to always belong. Because in her life, by her being a Creole woman that spoke French, people would always mistaken her for one or the other, or they would tell her she wasn't enough on either side. Either she wasn't white enough or she wasn't black enough. Okay. So when by me being the first grandchild, she said the name Yashika sounded like a strong African name. Now, does it have different origins to it? Of course it does, but grandma didn't have Google back in the 1970s. And grandma wanted me to belong, right? That's what she wanted me. She wanted me to go into any room and belong there. That's why she gave me the name Yashika Giovanna. And so when I tell you that any room I go into, I belong there, because for her, she always felt like she wasn't enough. Either she wasn't black enough, she wasn't white enough. For the white people, she wasn't white enough. For the black people, she wasn't black enough because she was high yellow because of her DNA. But for me, listen, I don't care what I am. I'm going into the room. I don't care if I'm the only one of my kind in there. And trust me, I've been there as well. I go into a room and the room shift. And that's the way it's supposed to be. You ain't never supposed to doggone downsize yourself to fit in. Okay. So that part of you that did that, get rid of that. Okay. Now, invite reflection. Who are you trying to save that no longer needs saving? What part of you is it? That little child that back then that got criticized, or is it that little girl that I was that thought that if I come up if I'm strong, then does that mean that I'm a right? Because that was the confusion a lot of us had. Like if I was too strong, she got to be this way. What? Wait a minute, I like boys. I like boys too much. Ugh, I digress. You know what I mean? I like boys too much, right? But it was that thing. If I was too masculine because I was too this, then she got to be this. No, I'm not. Like, who said that? Who made that rule up? But then as a child, you hear that. And so I had to find my own path. Okay. I've never kissed a girl in my life. Okay. Ever. Okay. So you have to figure out who is it that you no longer needs to save. Because that girl that I was back then, I don't need to save her. That's why I let her go a long time ago. I had a job, the military, that said I had to be a certain way because I had to play the game to get to the bag. Right. Because I retired at 43. I had to play the game to get to the bag. Once I took that uniform off at the end of the day, I was a wife, I was a mother, I was all the things. And if my husbands could not accommodate that, hey, affirm the shift. All right. When you do make the shift, affirm it. Okay, you are not. You do not listen. It's not betrayal for you to grow, right? And I was having this discussion with someone the other day because people talk to me and I counsel and things like that. One thing I know about growing and surviving and shifting, right? It's uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. And you're going to have to be uncomfortable in order to get to that next level. In order to get to self actualization, Maslow's fifth hierarchy of need, like you taking care of everything else, in order for you to be the person that you are meant to be the thing that you are put here for, your purpose, your everything, you got to go through some things. And a lot of it is going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be in your place by yourself a long time, a lot of times by yourself, right? Sometimes it's going to feel lonely. You're going to have to talk to the ancestors, okay? Because when you got to shed some of those things that no longer serve you, right? Those things that you thought you needed, those crutches, those whatever it was that you thought you needed to hold on to survive, you do not need those things anymore. You are allowed to outgrow those things. You are, and you don't need permission from no one. When I say no one, I mean no one. This is your life. You only get to live it one time. Okay, you are allowed to become new. You are allowed to want peace and harmony and all the things in your life, right? Because being self-actualized means that you already know why you do what you do, and you understand that everything is connected to everything. Even when I tell the story about me being a young girl and I was strong back then, right? That's how I knew that, because I was physically strong and mentally strong, because I was from the hood and because I was, I was lifting weights as a young girl, I already knew that I wouldn't have an issue with being in the military. So that strength, mental and physically, right, prepared me for the military. And then you wrap all that up in all the education and all the things I learned. And then here I am now as this 52-year-old woman, fully self-actualized, who have stepped into her full purpose in this world. I've always known it, and I've always wanted it to be where this is what I do, right? Because I know that I have a story, and I know that my life helps other people. Because this ain't this listen, I wish it was pretty. I wish it was pretty, but it's not. But in order to get to where you're going, listen, you you deserve to have the softness that you want. When I come in my house, okay, baby, let me tell you something. It ain't nothing for me to put on a long flowing robe, okay? Put on me some smell good after I get out of my whatever, my whatever. Okay, if I take a hot bath, a shower, or I sit in my sauna, go around the house and I drink me some wine, listen to some music, and just flow. You hear me? Listen, that's what. And then when I listen, I do something every day for me. I go get, when I tell you every day for me, like today it's nail and feet and nail days. Okay. This is the life that I give myself because I deserve this life. I deserve to be where I'm not in survival mode. I feel like I had to, like Oprah, fight all my life, right? And sometimes we do. Sometimes we do have to fight in order to get to where we're trying to go. But it comes a time when it weighs you down, and it's time to lay some things down and use this instead of this. And that's where I'm at now, right? Been that way for a long time, right? Now anybody know you roll up now, is it still in there? Absolutely. Absolutely. But for the most part, I realized that I can do more damage with being nice and being like this than sitting up here using a whole bunch of words or trying to be whatever, trying to flex. Like I can get a lot done being like this. Okay? Because words have meaning, right? And words are powerful. And if you put the two together, you have words that have powerful meanings. Okay? Now, I don't know who this is for, but I know this is for somebody, all right? Now, if you are ready to be self actualized and you feel like you need a life strategist in your life, hit me up in my DMs or set yourself up an appointment. It's in this up somewhere up top or below of this particular video, right? Listen, you can do a consultation with me, 15 minutes, absolutely free. You might decide, you know what, maybe now, not right now, maybe later. You might decide that, you know what, I don't want to work with you right now, but I want some of your products. And I can send you those links as well. But what I do know is that once you meet me, you're going to want me in your life. You're going to be like, you know what? I did not know I needed sprinkles of sprinkles of glitter and sunshine in my life. I didn't know I needed that, but you're gonna realize you need it. Okay, so listen, I don't know who this is for. I know it's for somebody. If this is your first time here, show your girl some love. Leave a comment, subscribe, share, do whatever you do, but turn on your notifications until you can know that when I go live. And I will see you guys again tomorrow at the same time. All right, talk to you guys in the next slide. Bye.